Hey everyone, it's Raghu, and I'm back with Mindrolling, and back. This is going to be the most extraordinary podcast in that I know this person, Mirabai Bush, for a very long time. Welcome, Mirabai, and many of you know her too. So
Great to be here. Really great.
you know that Keith Richards quote. He went on. He was invited on a television show or something, and the host said, "It's so great to have you here, Keith." And Keith said, "Yeah, it's great to be anywhere."
Well, thank you. I'm going to use that line from now on.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's true.
Yeah. So, Mirabai has a wonderful memoir called Almost Home, and I'm going to show it right here.
Mm.
And it's, for me, since we have known each other an awful long time, and I just thought erroneously that I knew everything about you. And I was shocked when I read some. I didn't know everything, and it's a wonderful read. It's got so much pathos as well as deep wisdom and just fun, exciting travels and people and so on and so forth. So, but I want to read something, Mirabai, that I found in the book. So I had read this book last year when it came out, right? It came out at the end of last year, I think.
Yeah, November, December. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I went through it again because we're going to do this podcast. America, this is in the, I think it's the beginning, yeah. America is a country of oppositions and contradictions, more apparent now than ever. Oh boy. My family exemplified that. A marriage from the north and south of Ireland in New York, another of a Connecticut Yankee and the daughter of a Confederate colonel.
From Boonville, North Carolina.
Really? Oh, God, where we do retreats now or nearby there. Oh, God, that's macabre. Then my parents, my father from an English-landed gentry family, and my mother, daughter of immigrant Irish Americans, descended from hundreds of years of sorrow, married at a time when clubs and restaurants still posted signs saying, quote unquote, "No dogs or Irish allowed." I mean, this is real, right?
Yeah.
Women on both sides experience trauma, and that trauma is passed on through the body, no matter how many happy stories they told. That trauma passed to me and led me to search for ways to be free. It's why I ended up in Bodh Gaya, which is where Mirabai first went when she went to India. But just reading that, I mean, look at where we're at now, and reading that, and
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about trauma, and the passing of it from generation to generation, it's nervy at the very least, And you've done work in this area for sure. I mean, this is like, we want to go through the whole biography of the book, but in another way, this is so important to where we're at right now that maybe say something about that.
Yeah, the whole part about immigration and how this country, it wasn't that long ago. My grandmother lived through the Civil War. I mean, this
Really?
it's not all that long ago. But later in the book, I wrote a passage during the 60s about when we were doing protests against the Vietnam War, and things were just turned upside down on college campuses, and civil rights was raging. And when I look back on it, and then all the things that happened, the police came onto campus, and the country was really dividing down the middle. So much like what's happening now. So interesting. I remembered it, but I had to really sit with it to appreciate how much we're echoing of an earlier time.
Yeah. Amazingly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ram Dass said at one point, I'm sure you've heard him say it or read it, in the 60s, when all of these ideals were burgeoning and we had a sense of freedom and a sense of being allowed to be who we were, who we are. And except for one thing, he said, we wanted everybody to experience this. That's, and he said, that's when Leary and I, put acid in the water supply, to the, it's a ridiculous idea, but that's what was going on for all of us. How do we get, the other side of the divide to realize, wow, this is just an incredible way to get to know ourselves and be better human beings. And so he said, Ram Dass said, well, I look back at that now and how, we represented an ideal and we completely kind of misused that ideal by not realizing how people would react to some of this very radical ideas and psychedelics and all of it. And I think he said that we contributed to the growth of the fundamentalist part of our nation, fundamentalist Christians and fundamental right-wing ideals and conservatism and so on. We help fuel that by our complete inattention to the reality that we were creating completely the opposite of what we wanted to create, right?
Well, I think we accelerated it, but I think it would have happened in any case.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was there, man. I remembered in going back through my notes when I wrote it about Kent State and how, remember, 4 people were killed in Ohio, and that people in that town would, the people who were on the side of the National Guard who came in and killed students, they give each other a signal in the street of 4 fingers up, like we got 4 of them. Yeah, when I saw that again, it just shocked me that there was that kind of real kind of hate and separation then. And it's here
disregard,
again. Yeah.
Completely devoid of humanity. Yeah. Well, it's what we're seeing, It's what we're seeing now. So, on a lighter note,
yes.
This is happening so prominently in our day-to-day lives. So you can't even talk to anybody without it coming up in one way or another.
There is no other.
Yeah, there is no other. I guess we should mention that too, huh? I was looking, this is part of our roles. Mirabai is on the board of Love Serve Remember Foundation. I'm the director, and I was looking for a way for us to kind of take what Ram Dass had represented in his, voluminous talks and so on, and put something together that would represent a positive energy. I don't even remember what I said, but I said it to Mirabai. She said, well, let me think about it. And then she came back with There Is No Other, which is obviously completely addressing the polarity that we're in, the divide that we're in. And it's actually a wonderful book that Parvati Markus edited, and that's something we're proud of. I had, by the way, I just had somebody who's we're working with, who is an animal rights person, and he went and just ordered a whole pile of them, from the shop, and I'm getting direct feedback. This just happened, Mirabai, or else
Oh, that's
I would
great.
have mentioned to it. It was just a wonderful feeling. So that, that's in our lives, day to day to day. But let's talk about the fact that Mirabai, what university did you go to?
I went to undergraduate school at Duquesne University. Then I went to Georgetown for a master's, and then I went to SUNY Buffalo for PhD, which I never got because I left just before I wrote my dissertation.
Oh, really?
Thinking I was going on a short trip to India. And of course, I never came back.
Yeah, really never came back. But before all of that, I mean, let's talk about how you ended up at Cape Canaveral.
Oh.
I mean, that's an outstanding thing that everybody, when I show them the book or I share the book or whatever, wow, I didn't know that, even if they knew you.
It's true. That's something that almost nobody knew about me. Well, I grew up. I was ready for college in 57. So things are still very conventional, 50s. And, if you were a girl, you were supposed to get married soon out of college. And you were supposed to marry a certain kind of boy. And depending on your family and so on. So I met the person I thought was just fit right into that description. And I didn't really know yet about love or even passion. I just thought that's what I was supposed to do. And so in those years, college men went through ROTC usually. That was Reserve Officers Training, because then you became an officer when you came out. This is before the Vietnam War, but there was a draft and everybody had to go into the military. And so that's what he did. And he was he was studying aeronautical engineering. So when he got out, they sent him to the Air Force, sent him to Cape Canaveral. And he was working on the Titan III, which was a project program to put the hydrogen bomb into orbit. Think about it.
Jesus.
They say it was canceled, but of course, we'd be the last to know. But the idea was that in a moment's notice, we could drop it on Russia. So that's what he was doing. And I was, so he was all day long hours. And then he'd come home and he wasn't allowed, everything was top secret. So he couldn't talk about what he was doing. And there was nothing else happening. We were on an Air Force base. And most of the women, I didn't have too much in common with. They were mostly Southern in those years, and they were into taking milk baths. I remember that. And just sort of taking care of themselves all day, until their husbands got home. So I was really bored, and women were not supposed to work. But officers' wives were not supposed to work, and they didn't. And but I had always worked, and I thought this will be a good idea. I had worked for a couple of years after college before I went there, and I've been an book editor in Washington D.C. And so I had those skills, and I applied for jobs, and I got a job for a contractor to NASA to work on the Saturn V, which was the first manned moon launch. And I edited manuals. I was a literature major. I edited manuals on how to fill the Saturn V with liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. I was a quick study. And I worked with 100 men.
You and
Yeah.
100. Jesus. Wow.
Yeah.
And isn't it crazy? They're sending it up again to the moons within the next year or two, something.
Yeah, they're going back.
Yeah.
They didn't stay very long the first time.
No. Now they're going to the dark side, apparently. Yeah. But this is quite an environment to suddenly emerging out of that was the interest that completely changed your life.
Well, the timing was a big part of it. I did that for a couple of years, but it still didn't work for me. And I left, and I went back to graduate school. I got divorced, and in those years, there was no fault divorce. When people wanted to get divorced, they used to, they'd have to hire a secret camera person to follow around your spouse and see if they were sleeping with somebody else. And in this case, he wasn't. I just couldn't do it. So anyhow, we ended up getting divorced in Mexico. But then I went back to graduate school, and I was there from 67 to 70. And of course, everything was happening then. And I got involved in civil rights and anti-war work and then psychedelics. And I was studying literature, and the poets at that time were like the radical speakers, and they were amazing. Of course, all of them. Robert Bly and Allen Ginsberg was there a lot. It was an amazing time, and so, and then that was the year when it got really violent. People were bombing things, and and the police took over the campus, and so a group of us from the English department decided we would leave for a while. Actually, we went to British Columbia and we homesteaded and we started a commune. And I intended to go back to that, but we had this Krishna, my boyfriend then became my husband, and I had this idea we wanted to go to India. So we thought we'd go for, and spend a couple of weeks there and then go back to the commune. That was the idea. And we took that overland bus, the Green Turtle, the magic bus. Took 2 months from Delhi from London to Delhi. And then that was it.
The end. Oh my God. But you went there. You had an interest in meditation, though. I mean, yes, psychedelics opened the door, but you did have
psychedelics was it. No, I didn't know anything about meditation. I had never meditated.
Oh, really?
I never sat down and crossed my legs. I just no. I was an intellectual. So, I mean, the idea of looking into your mind to understand your mind it just never occurred to me. I was always looking outward. You can imagine I read hundreds of books. That's what I was doing. But I was always looking for somebody else's ideas and not into the nature of the mind and heart, of course. And so it was really radical for me, that first meditation course.
Yeah. Well, how did you even walk into that?
I walked into it because I think it was the first day we were in Delhi on Connaught Place. And I saw a Western woman cross the way. And there were very few Westerners then in India. And so we walked to each other and met, and it was Sharon Salzberg. And we had been at the same school in Buffalo, and we had never met. And then we met on the street in Delhi, which was really fun. And she had heard about this course that Goenka was teaching for Westerners for the first time in Bodh Gaya. She'd heard about it from Danny Goleman. She'd gone to a yoga conference and heard about it from him. And she told us about it, and it was really very low commitment or expectation. It was a little bit like, say, wine and cheese in Paris, of course. Meditation in India, of course. That's what they do here. We should try that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Hey, folks out there, this is a very strenuous, particular meditation. And, we're talking about 14 hours a day or something, 12, whatever, and getting up early in the morning and starting it all over again, and no talking, eating very simple food. This was nothing in terms of the rigor, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was rigorous. And then when it was taught as a 10-day course, and there were about 70 Westerners there, and Ram Dass was there, and Krishnadas, and Ramesh. This is the first time I met all those folks, Wes Nisker, and Joseph Goldstein and Sharon, and it was quite. But of course, we were all just sitting in silence together. When the first course was over, we really we were so curious about each other because we'd seen each other walk across the room. It was like, whoa, what's that? And so we were busy like telling each other all our stories, And Ram Dass is like, really, you should be here now. Be Here Now came out while we were in that course. The first copy came to India while we were sitting. But so he was just always saying, be here now. And then he called us the used to be's because we sat around saying what we used to be. Yeah. And then we all, or many of us, decided that we really wanted to do more of it. We all recognized that it was powerful and that we were beginning to see things we hadn't before. And so we asked Goenka to teach another one. And then he did 4 in a row. I mean, what were we thinking? 40 days of silent, 14-hour days. Yeah. And it was really wonderful. And it was such the perfect experience and preparation, because right after that, I met Maharaj-ji for the first time.
Well, tell that story. It's a famous story, the bus story, but and Mirabai didn't know anything about Neem Karoli Baba, Maharaj-ji, Ram Dass, nothing, but bumped into Ram Dass at the at this meditation course in Bodh Gaya, and then got a little bit familiar. I'm sure there was breaks in the courses where you did.
Yeah, there were a few days between. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, they all got onto a bus because after it was over, particularly Ram Dass was, he used to say this all the time after, I just wanted an ice cream and a hot bath. I wanted to get to Delhi. That's it, and then sidetrack.
Yeah. Well, while we were sitting, I've been meaning all these years to ask him, and I keep forgetting how or why he did it. But Danny Goleman snuck out of the meditation course, and he must have climbed over the monastery wall. I don't know. And he went because he went to this great gathering in India called the Kumbh Mela, which and we're all just sadhus, holy wandering men, saints of all kinds, gather at the meeting of 3 rivers in Allahabad. And Yeah, and so this year, it's nothing compared to what it is now, the numbers,
Yeah,
but
no. That
there,
last year they had a year ago actually.
yeah,
They had the Mahakumbh, the 12
yeah.
every 12 years, which is what Danny had gone to back then, I believe. And now it's tens and tens of millions of people coming through over a couple of months. It's crazy, and we experienced it once actually a
Oh,
few decades ago. Krishnadas and I and others with Tuwari. So yeah, no, it's an extraordinary thing. So Danny was right in going, wow, you guys got to check this out.
and he knew that it was over, but he wanted us to at least see where it had been, because these three sacred rivers come together there, and it had been such a powerful experience for him. So he finally convinced Ramdas that we should go to Delhi by way of Allahabad, and so the bus was just pulling into Allahabad, and all of a sudden there are disagreements about who actually saw Maharaj-ji first. This story gets told slightly differently by every person who tells it.
Of course.
But I think there was one child with us. She was 4, I think, Muffin. And either she or Ramesh, and he looked out the window and said, "There's Maharaj-ji." And there he was, standing in front of the Hanuman temple, just standing there. Now, I had, as I said, there was one copy of Be Here Now. It had come in the mail to Ramdas while we were sitting, and everybody wanted to read it. And so now, I mean, there were, of course, no copy machines. There was no way to reproduce anything,
Yeah,
so
right.
there was one copy, and that was it. And so everybody was taking their turns reading it, and so I was one of the last people to get it, and I was reading it on the bus just when we got there. But Goenka, the teacher of the meditation course, um, the Southern Buddhist approach is that you do not need a guru. All you need is someone who is a little ahead of you on the path, knows the practice, and can teach you. And those of you who've learned these practices know that's true. I mean, you'd like them to be quite ahead of you on the path, so that they're a good teacher. But that's all, and you don't need a guru. And at that time in India, I think there had been a lot of false gurus, and Goenka was wary about that. And so he had told us this a number of times in his talks, and so I didn't know anything, and I had just learned this practice, and I really loved this teacher, and so of course I believe what he said, and
let's not forget that you combine that with your scientific purview.
Yes.
Your university experiences, and just the combination of those two things was.
Yeah, it didn't add up.
No.
But and when we started off on the bus, we weren't really looking for Maharaj-ji. We were going to Delhi, well, for bath, but also for we were going to meet Swami Muktananda there, who Ramdas had been traveling with, and it was Shivaratri, a night in which there's an all-night Shiva chant, and we were going to chant with him. So I wasn't looking for Maharaj-ji or any guru, but there he was, and then everybody. And I was just reading the part in the book in which Ramdas talks about meeting Maharaj-ji. So I was one of the last to get off the bus, and I got off, and I just saw him, and I just fell down at his feet. I never thought I would bow to a guru,
Yeah.
But it wasn't a decision. I was just there. And he just in those first moments, just expanded my sense of what it can mean to be human, to be on this planet.
Mm.
Oh, no, there's so much more to it than I had thought. I've been leading my life pretty sure I knew what it was about, right? It was like, oh, wow, this is so, oh my God. Then we all um, went to uh, Dada Mukherjee's house, and where they fed us lunch. I remember the garden out in front. There's a rose garden, and everybody. Well, we'd all been meditating, so we were all pretty much all dressed in white, and even the men were wearing lungis, so they were like dresses. And everybody was floating around in these white clothes, and we were pretty ethereal after 4 months of meditating, and there were roses, and I thought, because I'd grown up as a Catholic girl, I thought, oh my God, it's like heaven. It's heaven. We came to heaven. Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh man,
That was the beginning.
Great. Yeah.
Oh.
And so the side story to this, which I'll mention because it's a fun thing, Ram Dass always talked about, well, okay, Danny said, okay, let's go to the Mela grounds because you must visit it. And he's thinking, I don't really want to, but I kind of want to go to Delhi, but it seems like they really want to go. So I said, okay, let's go, because he had hired the bus. So he was in some way in some false control, but that's what it was. So after they got there, they met Maharaj-ji, the story that Mirabai just told, and they went and they were fed. Ram Dass was told by one of the Indian people that were there serving them, Maharaj-ji woke us up at 6 a.m. and he told us there's 27 people coming. Make food for them. So Ram Dass, this was a great teaching for everybody, but for him in particular, it was a teaching around what am I actually controlling? Who's that person that thought that they were, It was a great thing. And it was a great story that he told over many, many, many years. Well, the thing about touching feet, right? That's a completely abnormal idea for Westerners, right? And it happened to me because I actually met Ram Dass. This is a couple of months later. He was traveling with Swami Muktananda, and I knew that. He told me, meet me at the ashram because I was trying to get to see Maharaj-ji. And I went there, and people were doing the same thing with Swami Muktananda, touching his feet and so on. And I was like, what is that? And Ram Dass came that night, and I said, what is this about? I have no feeling whatsoever. And he said, look, you're honoring, the beautiful soul being in him, and the beautiful soul being in you is honoring. But if you have a problem with it, good stuff to work on. Later wrote a book, Grist for the Mill. But he did tell me how to get to Maharaj-ji up, going up to Nainital, and the same thing happened to me when I went, and I was saying goodbye to Swami Muktananda. Still, I couldn't get near that, whatever that is in me, as a Westerner, that was preventing me from letting go in that moment. Anyhow, so I eventually did get up 2 days later to Nainital, and me, and it was Krishna Das and Danny and Anasuya, all folks that we are been close to ever since that time, in one way or another. And then as soon as Maharaj-ji came out of his room in the back, we were sitting around the cot that he would sit on. Not a thought, nothing. And you said the same thing in the book, by the way. You described it as, okay, I talk about touching anybody's feet or anything. There wasn't a thought. Boom, just, you hit the ground running, so to speak. And you don't understand it, too. I had no understanding of what that really was about. It was something, from the deepest part of myself that just had to acknowledge the presence of this thing, which we have no idea about at that time, and not much more right now. Just the impulse is, right? Undeniable.
Yeah.
God, we need about 3 or 4 podcasts to go through this.
I know. We have to go through it page by page.
Yeah. No, but just the highlights of it. I mean, you've had quite a life, okay? Just really amazing, I'm assuming everybody knows what you have done in the past with...
I hope not.
Well, no, not those parts that I didn't know about, no. That you can find out about in the book. The work with contemplative mind and working in all sorts of extraordinary, aside from in NASA, extraordinary places, helping people understand that through contemplation and meditation, there is a way to know oneself better. We can just say it at that most simple level. And all of that great work. That is incredible. And then, moving forward from that, in terms of the glue, that Ram Dass was a glue of sorts for all of us. I mean, Neem Karoli Baba said to us one day, none of you would have gotten here except for Ram Dass. Now, Mirabai's didn't go there because of Ram Dass, met Ram Dass there, but, became very close to him over the years. And together, myself and KD, Krishnadas and Ramesh and others, Paul, supported Ram Dass while he was in Maui because he almost died there. And we went over and got him into a house and this, that, and the other. So Ram Dass was really a glue for us in so many ways. And of course, Mirabai, another thing to say, another thing that you did was work with Ram Dass on this Walking Each Other Home, a book about death and dying, which is fantastic, everybody. We'll put this stuff in the show notes. But
I love that book.
Yeah,
I do.
I do too. I know.
Yeah.
It's so hanging out with you is what it is. The book. It's so relatable. You get drawn into the narrative in a way that's very warm and inviting.
You know what happened in those years we were teaching those retreats, Opening Your Heart in Paradise with Ram Dass, and we said that I was doing this book with Ram Dass, and so many people came up to me and said, "Oh, I would love to be doing that. You're so lucky to be able to be in that room with him and talking so many hours together." And so I really wanted to, bring everybody into the room where it happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it reads that way. But it was a really wonderful experience. And
yeah.
And I remembered that when I left Bodh when we all left Bodh that first time, I remember because I was so into language and I said, Ram Dass, I think I don't know how to talk anymore. We've been in silence for so long. What should I do? And he said, it's simple. He said, just say what you know. Don't say what you don't know. That was really good advice. And then 50 years later, when we decided we'd do this book and we were talking about it. It was your idea originally, the book. And but he was concerned. I said, why do you want to do a book about dying? Because you have been talking about it for 50 years. And I went back to Be Here Now, and the words are all there. I mean, not quite in the same way, but the basics. It's all there. But he said, I said it and I wrote it, but now that I'm so close to death, I want to share what I know now and what I don't know, And so, and he said, and I don't want to fall into, like start talking about something about dying and then just like get on to the way I've said it 100 times, So we made this promise to each other again. Okay, we will only say what we know and we won't say what we don't know. And it pretty much worked.
It really did.
So great. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go backwards a little bit for a moment, because we did, of course, tell the story of meeting Maharaj-ji, Mirabai, and people on the bus, and Ram Dass and Danny and all of them. Then, of course, we spent, well, it was really over a 3-year period. Different people spent different amounts of time, but that's all we got in the physical presence of Karoli Baba. And but I have to read this thing because it really, your description of
whatever. Go ahead.
He seemed very large, and his brown skin looked warm. I was struck by a feeling of having been given something enormous, a feeling of being connected to something vastly larger than my own ego, a feeling of gratefulness and humility and being at home at last. I felt like he had taken care of something important, and I wouldn't have to do it anymore. I love that so much, Mirabai. Wow. And then I, the intellectual graduate student of literature from New York City, who carried Mao's little red book around for a year, found myself bowing at the feet of an Indian guru wrapped in a blanket who had just begun to change my life. I love that. That is so.
I do too.
That should.
I hadn't read it for a while.
Yeah. I know. I read it, and then I made a little place mark so I could read it back here now. So we spent this time, and we've been spending that same time for all these decades since, with each other, and obviously alone, just with Maharaj-ji. And the interesting thing, one fun thing that we should mention here before we have to get off, Mirabai and her husband, Krishna, John, and Danny Goleman and Anasuya, who were married at the same time, and myself and Parvati, I don't know how the hell we even thought of doing this, but we ended up at my father's farm in eastern Quebec, right over the border to Vermont. And my father's story is a whole other story. He came there for 3 weeks. Maharaj-ji made me give him acid, and, he completely changed. And then months later, he decided to go back and spend some more time there. So when he did that, the 6 of us decided, okay, we could stay there. That's nice. So we moved all of his furniture out and made it like India. Except, I don't know why I remember, except we were reading the New York Times every morning. I don't know. But so much incredible stuff happened. We met Trungpa Rinpoche, and we used to go see him and all that. But one of the biggest things that happened. Of course, the three women had children, babies, and Mirabai had her son Owen, Vishwanath. Can you just describe that a little bit? We were all there, by the way. We were all there sitting going, oh my God.
Well, we lived in India for several years, and in India, just about everybody was being born at home. And we also we were still kind of alternative, hippie-ish, challenging institutions in the way things had always been done. And we didn't like the idea of delivering in hospitals with bright lights and noise. And my sister delivered at that same time in Atlanta. And there, they were giving women shots to dry up their milk unless they requested not to have it.
Okay. I never heard it.
Yes. So anyhow, we didn't want to go to the hospital. So Anasuya delivered her son Govindas first. And there were also no books about childbirth at home. Later, of course, there were so many. But there was nothing except one book called was the Chicago Police Emergency Childbirth Handbook. And so Anasuya delivered first, and she had the perfect delivery. And she had labor, of course, it's painful no matter what you do. But out came Gove, and he was wonderful and healthy, and we were all there, and it was a miracle and beautiful. And then a few months later, it was time to deliver Owen, and who Maharaj-ji called Vishwanath. And so 2 weeks before the delivery date, my water broke, and we were living out in the woods in a little yurt that we had built out in the woods, and we had to walk after the water broke, like at midnight. We had to walk through the woods into the house carrying our foam mattress. So we had gone. We had seen a doctor for just early advice. And he said, I know what it was. We talked to him about delivering at home, and he said he would, he approved of it, and he would only come if we needed him. And then we could come and see him after the birth. Okay, but he said, in order to feel comfortable about that, I'd like you to have an x-ray. Of course, we were against x-rays too. But,
right.
But, I agreed. So he took the x-ray and said, everything looks normal. Go ahead. So I walk inside, and the contractions continue. Anyhow, we're all there. Which now, the idea of sitting in the middle of that room, squatting, that's how we thought was the proper way to deliver.
Yeah.
Squatting, naked, with like 12 people in the room, screaming from the pain. But anyhow, so we had a mirror underneath me to see the head crown. And we had watched this with Gove. And we were all watching the mirror, and out came 5 little toes. Oh no. Foot. Oh, what to do? We had the Chicago Police Manual. So Danny and Krishna, I went into they said, stay here. Like, where could I go? And they read the chapter on breech birth. We had never read that chapter because we didn't think that was happening. So they read it, and then they came back in, and I won't go through everything, but he finally, it was very difficult. And then he finally did come out. And then when he came out, he wasn't breathing. And then we taped this because we thought it was going to be everybody singing Sri Ram Jai Ram, and the baby would be born, and then, we'd hear the baby cry. And of course, none of that happened, but the tape was still running. And then you can hear me or Krishna saying, he's not breathing. Okay, go read the chapter on artificial respiration for newborns. We did that, which is complex and dangerous. And finally, he cried. And you hear this little cry on the tape.
Do you have it still?
It's
somewhere.
I think it's dead now, but we did have it for a long time. It's an old tape, and anyhow, you were talking about the feet before. I don't think I put this in the book, but so this was all about these little feet coming out, and as soon as we saw that, everything changed. And later, when it was all over, and he was okay, and I looked up, and we had a big poster of Maharaj-ji's feet that I looked anywhere except down the whole time, I would have seen them.
Wow.
A message, feet. I should have paid attention. Yeah, so that was very dramatic. And then I have to tell this part because I love it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Years later, we were giving a conference in LA for Seva. And I was standing in line, and there was like a buffet line. And I happened to be telling the person behind me, who was a woman who must have been in one of my groups or something, this very story. And about how amazing it was that we had that manual. And the guy in front of me in line turned around and said, I am the doctor who wrote that book. And so amazing. We fell into each other's arms.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. Actually, when I published the memoir just now, I thought, wow, I remembered the story, on him. And I started searching to see if I could find him so I could send it to him. But of course, he was older than me then. He was an accomplished doctor, and he was dead now.
Yeah.
But that was quite an event. Yeah.
It sure was. It sure was. Well, we're kind of at the end, and I want to, Mirabai can come back sometime because there's so much other great stuff in here. I mean, her work with Seva, many of you know that organization, curing blindness around the world with Ramdas and Larry Brilliant and others. There's so many little interludes here and there, What amazing. But you all can take advantage of reading the book because it's enjoyable. It's entertainment, just like you were just listening to it. But, there's one other thing that is in here, and I noted, and I've read maybe one or two things that are more about Mirabai has shared herself to many, many, many people over the years as a teacher and as a friend, and I count myself one of those people. And this book has much of that throughout it. So before we get off, I wanted to just read this one little passage, which is just more insightful. I began to understand that we can get free from the stories we have constructed about our lives based on our childhood. Sitting still, I saw that I had indeed lived through those years, but I had constructed a story about myself that I took as fact. Meditation helped me see that it's only a story. It doesn't have to determine my future. Once free from that story, I don't have to be an abandoned, sad person who needs to constantly prove her worth. I mean, this is something for everyone to ponder, because we all do that thing. And it creates more of the kind of separation that leads to all sorts of unhappiness. And so, yeah, there's a good reason to look inside yourself. Search inside yourself.
Yes. Good.
Thank you, Mirabai. Everybody, we're going to, as I said before, we'll put all the different in the show notes, different ways to get in touch with and purchase these books, different books. And Mirabai is, for somebody who's on their way to retirement, so to speak, this is well beyond any idea of that. I know what she's doing and how she's continues to help share Ram Dass and others, and where we come from, the lineage that we got from that day that you saw Maharaj-ji by that Hanuman. And so thank you for being here, Mirabai.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too. Everybody, we'll see you next week on Mindrolling. Go to BeHereNowNetwork.com.
Well done.
/Mindrolling. And we'll see you all next week.
Love everyone and serve everyone. That's what Maharaj told us.
Yep. That's it. Ram Ram.
Ram.